the H.A.T.A.E Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the H.A.T.A.E Podcast with me, Benjamin Madel. And today we've got our guest back there in England, Sid Sottung. How are you, Sid?
I'm doing perfect, mate. Perfect.
That's what we like to hear. So those who listened to the podcast before know we don't like messing around with the small talk at the start. How did you get into hairdressing then, Sid?
Well, I first actually got into barbering around the age of 14. And this is back in New York where I'm from. And then as I fell in love with, like, as soon as I walked into the barbershop at such a young age, I just fell in love with everything about hair. And then I went into doing ladies hairdressing. So I went to beauty school at nighttime, which is really interesting because, like, what happened was I was working a full-time job in the morning, during the day, and then I would start my hairdressing college from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and then a full day on a Saturday, at the college at the beauty school in New York. And then what would happen is I would also work in a nightclub, where we would give like free haircuts away. They had like a little barbershop set up in a nightclub, and I would just do free haircuts. And that was from like about 10:30 at night to about, I didn't leave until about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would do that Thursday through almost Sunday. And you know what? I did it at such a young age. So I was like, I had full of energy. I couldn't do that now.
No. I mean, it was making me tired listening to it. It was.
Yeah.
So when you started work there at 14, so how did you get into that? Sort of, was that just something that came about? You needed a Saturday job or you needed a weekend job, so
Well,
you went into the barbers?
well, Well, pretty much my mom suggested it to me because, like, she was like, oh, maybe, because she kind of saw that I was hanging out with, like, getting into a little bit of trouble. And so she's like, okay, why don't you work and, get a job? And the local barbershop's hiring. And then, so I was like, all right, and it was like a small Italian barbershop. And there was like uh, three guys in there, three barbers. And the youngest one was 60 years old, and they were such old timers. And I actually just fell in love with it. So I was like a shop boy or like, assistant or apprentice, and then just helping out. And then went for my licensing, and then of course went to, for college for hairdressing as well.
Yeah. How did you find that then, sort of the idea of moving from, like you're saying, a very traditional barbershop by the sounds of things, with sort of older guys working there, then moving into that sort of the more cosmetology sort of idea that
uh,
more women's and things like that.
well, I thought it was just like women were better to look at.
Fair enough.
So I'll be very honest with you. I thought I would have better chances of, meeting a wife or a girlfriend, working in a hair salon or working with women instead of just focusing on men the whole time. And you know what? I think for me in my life today, it's the skills to have to be able to do both. So such as ladies haircutting and also barbering, traditional, from wet shaving to fading to pompadours to modern looks. And what I like to do is I like to intermix everything together, and then of course, and then going into like the session styling, and also I do hair coloring as well. I just mix it all together, and that's kind of like what I do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It comes across in your work, like you say, a very strong sort of look to the past as well, with a look to the future, doesn't it? So then
Yeah.
when you went to cosmetology school after you'd done all that, were you still sort of working in the nightclubs and whatnot after that, or were you then sort of going full
Um,
time in salons?
yeah, what happened was then eventually I got a job at Vidal Sassoon in New York City, and so at that point, like, I think it was just like the nightclub had like kind of changed locations, and I kind of had to stop doing that because I was just trying to focus on my apprenticeship or my training schedule at Vidal Sassoon. And I was very fortunate enough. I did that in like 13 months, and so yeah.
Yeah, so you've
So for
done your
me, I kind of had to give up the nightclub scene.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You can't be doing that forever, can you? Working like that, like I say, it's a lot of hours in there. So you'd completed your cosmetology school, you'd got your license, and then you went obviously to Sassoon's. Then was that straight away after that, or did you sort of stop off anywhere in between?
I worked in a couple of small salons on the way, and I just wanted more, like meaning to learn, like for people to teach me and to learn. Because usually what happens is like um, usually after in America, once you finish your cosmetology, you just get a job in a salon, and then I don't know too many places that do additional training. Um, so they expected me just to kind of like somehow build up a clientele out of nowhere, and so I was like, you know what, I wasn't ready yet, especially at the time, at cosmetology school or hair, beauty school, they only taught you enough to pass the state board,
Yeah.
which is like very like roller sets, and it wasn't enough. And for me, I needed more additional training, and that's where I got it at Vidal Sassoon.
Yeah. How did you find then going from, like you say, you've qualified, you've gone working in the salon, you've then gone to Sassoon's, where you obviously have to do your barbering, don't you? If you're going to Sassoon's, no matter what. So you're almost back to the start in a way, aren't you? Did you
Yeah,
find
no,
that easy to do?
um, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I was up for anything, I mean, just to get a chance to work at Vidal Sassoon, to be chosen to join them was such a big honor for me, and I didn't want to mess it up, and so for me, I just loved it, um, and I wanted to be a part of it all,
Yeah. No,
and
it's
so
a
and so
carry on,
yeah, for
Sid.
me, I just love this. I just love the structure of it all and the intensity. And like when what happened was before I joined Vidal Sassoon, I had done a couple of their courses, their week courses up in Canada, and I just felt like I belonged finally, because like they were all fashionable, they were all creative. The girls had short hair, they had crazy color. The guys, they were very either flamboyant or they wore very creative outfits, in the salons. And the type of styles they did were shorter lengths, very cool structured haircuts. And I just wanted to be a part of it. I mean, I was ready to move up to Canada, to be honest with you, to be
Okay.
able to join Sassoon. Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of time period was this you were doing this then, Sid?
Let's see. It must have been 94.
Okay, so mid-90s, so it's all quite fun, obviously, with Sassoon's heritage, and sort of Britpop taking over the world and Cool Britannia and whatnot. It must have been quite a fun time to be working there.
Oh, to be honest with you, it was amazing. The staff there, it was such a great time. And then after I qualified, I had a chance to move to Washington D.C., where they opened up a new salon there, Vidal Sassoon. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a go, and that's where I start, where I had qualified, like where I moved to qualify in, and then yeah, which was great. It wasn't as creative as New York City, but it was a chance to like work in a brand new salon.
Yeah, so I was just about to say that. Was that something that you found, obviously, sort of New York being a fashion capital of the world, and then moving to sort of Washington DC, which is obviously a little bit more, what should we say, office based, political, sort of that end of the scale. Plenty of money, but maybe not quite as creative. Was that something that you found a challenge when you moved there, or were you still sort of
Yeah,
attracting that cool clientele?
yeah. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't really getting the cool, like it really didn't have necessarily a cool clientele. Most of the people worked for the government there. Um, they just A lot of people just wanted great haircuts, So I was a bit different. I've always been a bit different, and down there, like it was like quite reserved in a way. So like I couldn't like show my tattoos. So I
Okay.
always had to wear long sleeve shirts. Um, so and of course I still have my New York, you know, um, feel. So I kept on going back and forth on the weekend to New York. I would either drive up or take the train up or anything, and I would see family or I would just go party. Uh, and so I was always still, kind of like focusing, going back and forth to New York all the time. So
Yeah.
so it was kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Like I think at the time I wasn't mature enough to really truly appreciate what I was where I was living and what I was going through.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things, isn't it? Is it sort of when you're young, you sort of don't pay attention to these things like you say, if you're going back all the time, you're not really settled somewhere, and it's sort of yeah. But when you're young, that's what happens, isn't it? So how long were you there for when you were in Washington DC? Did you stay there for long?
Yeah, I think I was there for about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. So a little while then.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, and then yeah.
where did you go after that?
So I went to Philadelphia for a bit because at that time my father passed away like suddenly, and so I went to like live closer to my mom in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and then after that I went back to Vidal Sassoon in New York City. So I moved up to well, what I was doing was I was living in Philadelphia and I was commuting to New York City by the coach by the bus,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it took me. I used to leave at. I used to get up to get ready at 4 o'clock in the morning to be at work by 9, and then I would then get home at 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That's a long old day,
So,
isn't it? You know, and
yeah, honestly, it was crazy. Like the amount of like what I was going through, what I was putting myself through, because I was trying to find a place. I had a dog at the time, and I was trying to find a place that would take me and my dog in New York, and I finally found a place after like 8 months.
yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of commuting, is it? Once again, though, when you're young, it's fine, isn't it? When you're young, it's fine. So
Oh
after
yeah,
that,
I mean, yeah,
carry on, Sid, please.
yeah. After like, but what was cool was I was having a New York City salary, but I was living in Philadelphia, which was cheap as chips. So it was like really, you could go into a pub or a bar in Philadelphia, and buy everyone around a drink, and with $20, and you would get change back.
Yeah,
I mean, it was that's how affordable it was. I mean, I think at the time I was paying like I think the equivalent of a brand new one bedroom flat. I think I was paying the equivalent in Philadelphia for like I think it was like about 150 quid a month.
really. That's that. You know, that's not a
I
great
mean, it
deal,
was
is it? Yeah. I mean,
I
what
mean
would the
that's like
comparison in New
it's
York be for that at that time?
at the time I think it would probably been like about at least £1,000.
Yeah, a lot of money, isn't it?
So,
You know,
so it was like a massive difference. For me, I mean, so that's what kind of helped me through. But the amount I was paying for traveling was ridiculous.
yeah, six of one, half a dozen the other in a way. How did you find that though? Did you find that quite tiring in the end? Sort of that amount of traveling and sort of those sort of
Oh
hours as
yeah,
well.
oh definitely. And so I was very grateful to finally get a chance to move back up to New York.
Yeah. So then you moved back to New York there with Sassoons. How long were you there this time? Do you stay at Sassoons in New York?
Yeah, I was probably there for a good like 4 or 5 years in New York City, and then I had moved to I then because I wanted to go like I've always wanted to go into teaching, and so I eventually transferred to California, and I was part of the creative team. I became an educator at a full time educator at their academy in Santa Monica, California at the time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic time to be about there, isn't it, as well? How when you 'cause this is something I've found recently with the cosmetology license, obviously in America, as we don't have in the UK, as such. How did you find that? Were the company obviously very good with you in sort of transferring and helping you out in that way? Did you find that much of an obstacle with obviously moving from Philadelphia, moved New York, moved to California?
Yeah, I mean, no, they were quite, because especially at the time, I I was really focused on becoming a teacher, a full time educator. So there was an opportunity there, and I just grabbed it.
Yeah,
And and I think, I mean, overall, I mean, I think later on we'll find out the real reason why I was traveling so much. But for me, in the end of the day, as I look back, I mean, even though I thought I was just doing it to progress my career, in the end of it all, I was just doing something called a geographic, where I was trying to run away from my problems, and so I went to LA, became a full time educator for them, and I was there for about 3 years. Through this time, I was doing New York Fashion Week, LA Fashion Week. I was doing these little mini hair shows everywhere. I mean, it was really great, really cool, crazy times. Electronic music was like was really taking off, especially on the underground scene. the fashion scene. Uh, there was a time when I was just getting free cigarettes and free drinks because I would be doing bartender's hair and all that. I mean, it was some really cool times. I lived in Brooklyn. Um, it was party central, to be honest with you. And for
Yeah,
me, it was like such a crazy time.
yeah, absolutely. Well, sort of living between New York and then going over to California, LA, and around that way, it's two of the big sort of, what should we say, cultural hubs, aren't they? Really,
Yeah.
of the world. And what was the differences you found then between sort of clientele there in sort of LA to New York? Was there much of one, or was it sort of the style quite similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is it's like, for a Sassoon clientele versus maybe another salon, there was plenty of bobs and plenty of creativity. We were always looking for models, young girls and guys that, want something a little bit edgy and creative. So, and that's what it was, always looking for models and trying to find, creative people to work on, to connect with.
Yeah. Especially in those cities, you've got plenty of access to it there, haven't you? Because obviously people will go to New York to try and make it. They'll go to LA to try and make it. Musicians, actors, artists, all manner of people, isn't there? So it does enable you to sort of have that outlet of sort of more young, fun people, doesn't it? That are wanting to sort of do something different.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So then what happened then? So you say you were there in California. You've been there a few years. Then what was the next move for you, Sid?
So after California, I then took a job with Vidal Sassoon, and I then was working in London at their advanced academy at the time. So it's no longer there, but it was just a couple streets away from their classic academy called Daly's Muse, and so I was working at their advanced academy where it was like every day was pushing the limits of with hair and doing creativity all the time.
Yeah. So you moved straight over from California to London. And did you find that a sort of a big change once again? Obviously, you're going from New York to LA. I mean, it does sort of emphasize how much you can travel and where you can go with hairdressing, doesn't it, as well?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was definitely a massive change. With the weather, of course, and the lifestyle, and understanding a British or European mindset. Me at the time, I was very, very a typical American. Especially from New York, I was very loud, very chaotic. Um, so I think I've calmed down a lot throughout the years, especially living. I've been living in the UK ever since. So I've been living in the UK for about 25 years, 24 years, 23 years now.
Yeah. So a
So
little while then.
yeah, yeah. So I think that for me it was such a change because like when I moved to the UK to London because I moved because it's like the fashion capital of the world, and also it was like kind of like the first toe in the water reaching Europe, where and that's where kind of like to me where the top hairdressers were. And I'm not saying that the American hairdressers were awful or anything, but it was a big difference in style in a way. So and that's why I was like, you know what, let me go for it. It was my opportunity, so I went for it. So
That's brilliant. So when you were working there, sort of at the Advanced Academy there, that's Sassoons, isn't it? At the Advanced Academy you were working at there.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, in London. Was there sort of like I was saying earlier, you sort of found the cultural differences, obviously between Britain and America and whatnot else. Was the sort of the way that you were sort of teaching? I mean, it's obviously Sassoon's ways are Sassoon's ways. The ways you were teaching, did you find you had to alter those as well to a slightly different audience, or was it sort of more an international uh, clientele that you had?
um, so I was trained in working with an international audience anyway. So especially when with the way this the stuff we would get international students in LA as well. So through my training at Sassoon, from not just the haircutting and everything, but with the teacher training program and everything, it was honestly it's really made me who I am today.
Oh, no, it's a fantastic base you always get to whenever you speak to anyone, see anyone who's worked there for any length of time. There's definitely obviously the technique and the way that things are done is always exceptional. So at what point then, so you say now you've been there, I know you sort of got your own business now. At what point then did you leave Sassoons once you were in the UK?
So I probably left maybe about like 4 or 5 years after I moved to London, and at that point, I kind of just like I just left. And you know, I had a lot of personal problems myself. I mean, I was dealing with I'm a recovered alcoholic drug addict. So for me, like I was dealing with a lot of my demons the whole time. And so when I left Sassoon, like I think that's when it went. To be honest with you, if I didn't leave Sassoon, I would have gotten fired because
Yeah.
like my demons were taking over my life, and I was just like really lost in my life. But the only thing I had was my passion for hair. Um, and then I realized, my drug and alcohol abuse was hurting my passion for hair. Um, and that's when I had to leave, and trying to like I don't know, like I moved to a place called Nottingham in England, and because my ex-wife was doing a master's degree there, and so I was there for a little bit, and that's where I ended up getting sober. So I've been sober about 11 years now.
Yeah, so it's a long time, well done for that. How did you find the difference? Because obviously London is this great big metropole, huge, great big
Yeah.
worldwide city. Then sort of getting out of that, I mean, sort of with the problems that you had, obviously being in LA, being in New York, being in London, it's going to cause, it's an environment in which those problems can breed very quickly. How did you find moving to Nottingham?
Um, I think for me, I mean, it was still like, I'm still American, so anything like British, any new area seemed cool to me.
Yeah,
So, I mean, and plus that when I moved, I don't know, I was just trying to take it easy. It was a lot more affordable in Nottingham, like a lot more cheaper than London.
yeah,
And so for me, it wasn't that much, because Nottingham at the time was a bit more of like a rock and roll town. So you see a lot of gigs and the type of people who lived there. And plus there was a lot of students.
yeah.
So for me, it was just like I could just adapt anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's It's one of those
yeah,
skills you pick up, isn't it? When you've lived in a few places, you can tend to sort of navigate your way around the whole system again, can't you? Sort of with relative ease. Were you still working in hairdressing at this point, or had you taken a little break, or
no,
what were you doing?
I've always done hairdressing and
Yeah.
barbering. Yeah,
So were you working in a salon there, or were you sort of working
yeah, I was
freelance? Or
just working small salons, and I tried doing freelance education, but that didn't really take off at the time.
yeah,
Um, so what I did was I just started. I was working in various salons at the time, but at the time I was still like I said, I was still in my active addiction. So like I was kind of like hopeless at the time, or like I was lost. So that's all I could do at the time was just working in salons and just various things. So yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely. So I know then, sort of obviously once you cleaned up and got your life back on the track, so to speak. When did you open up your own business there in Nottingham? Because I know you opened up your
Well,
own place there.
yeah. So what happened was, so I remember it was the so I finally had gotten sober, and I remember I was just walking down the street in Nottingham where I don't remember walking through, and what happened was all of a sudden I was just they had these small little tiny shops there and storefronts, and I just felt like I was being pulled over to this one by like a strange force. I know it sounds weird,
Yeah,
and it
no, it
had a for
happens.
rent sign. Yeah, it had a for rent sign, and uh, what happened was um, and so just as I went over there, I was looking in. It was really tiny. It was like the size of I mean, my living room in my flat here in Scotland is like twice the size of it, and you could barely put four chairs in there, and it was so tiny. And all of a sudden, the next door neighbor came out from the shop, and he was telling me all about it and how much it cost, and it was like I think £290 per month to rent.
Yeah, yeah. Happy days.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
was dead cheap. So what? But the problem was like I had remember I literally just got sober a month before, and I was like 28,000 pounds in debt at the time. I had about 43 pence in my pocket, and within the next day I was signing the papers to get the place, and I was so broke, but I was so determined to start something, and because I started at that point. I started teaching and everything, like renting a place somewhere else, like a floor, a room, and so I was making money that way. And then and so during the whole time, then I was doing the renovating, sort of like trying to like people donating stuff to me, and giving me an extra like 20 pounds just to help pay for something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and I ended up doing that, and I made it happen. And then at this point, what happened was the barbering industry, like the trend happened. And because I was like the third training provider in all of the UK at the time, providing barbering training, men's cutting, I was there at the right time in the right place. And like within 6 months, I was like fully booked on my courses. I paid off all my debt. I was making money. And so, yeah. And then I started just doing like various, I started traveling. People were hiring me to go to teach how to do training courses. And the thing is, to do seminars. And because of my background at Sassoon, I was trained in doing these seminars, these on shows. So, but what happened was, I was asked to do these training videos for myhairdressers.com. And so then what happened was the Russian agent, or the franchise of myhairdressers.com, had hired me to go to Russia, because like barbering was becoming like trendy there, or it was like the evolution, or And what happened was, I remember I got hired to go to Russia, Moscow, and honestly, like what had happened was so crazy. I was there for like a week, and each day I was teaching, doing demonstrations, classes, and but what happened was I ended up doing like 3 interviews for magazines each night, and to be honest, it was really tired. And
Yeah.
then of course going out for dinner afterwards and it was just like, so by the time I got back to the hotel, it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, and I was just like, I was absolutely knackered. And then so then what happened was, so after I left Russia, I then got asked to go back to Russia again for in the summertime, to go to Sochi, this barber show, no, sorry, this hair show. And what happened was, so they heard about me through the magazines I was doing, and then I went back again, like a month or 2 months later, because someone saw me at the show and they wanted me to go to their barbershop to do training. And then at that point, then the original, it was a company called Shmushka Academy in Moscow. They then wanted to be my agent because I was getting so much work. Keep on going back to Russia, and then I ended up doing. It was kind of like the Tonight Show. It was like this talk show that went to millions upon millions of Russians, and I did a makeover on the talk show, and then that exploded. Like my name
Yeah.
exploded in Russia massively, and then so yeah, so I've been to Russia about like 40 times in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
doing seminar shows, and so I have like a lot of friends in Russia and everything, even though we're going through a dark time at the moment.
Yeah.
But and then of course, then going to various countries like Mexico. I've already been to China, and then like Italy, and then France, Spain. Uh, and so that's where that's part of what I do now, is primarily going into like I do in salon, or I travel for education.
Yeah.
So because I used to have academies and everything. So I had like 2 academies, a barbershop, hair salon. So now what I do now is I just focus on 2 things. One, I offer online education. So I have these course programs. So I just launched my new creative cutting one. Before before that, I had a barbering foundation one. Um, and the other thing is, I travel the world to offer education. But I work for various brands. So I'm a global educator for um, I'm a global educator for a brand called Andis Clippers. So they
Yep.
make hair clippers. I'm an educator for a scissor distributor called Yoy Scissors. I'm the head of education for a men's range called Captain Fawcett, which is made in Great Britain. And last but not least, I'm a global educator for um, I'm a global educator for a brand from Sweden called 9 Yards, which is like kind of like more of like a hairdressing brand. So we're launching the color later this year. And it's a vegan brand, and it's absolutely amazing. And I absolutely love the product, so especially because there's like a mixture of style, like session work, and like you could use the products for backstage or for photo shoots. So these are really great products to use. So yeah, so that's what I do. And also I do like I try and be a mentor to the young people and trying to help develop them as educators or platform artists and everything. So
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. How did you find that though? So when you were you were traveling a lot to Russia, going here, there, everywhere and whatnot, just after opening a new salon. Was that
yeah.
was that something that you sort of, well, I mean, obviously you just have to get on with it, don't you, when it comes. But was that something you found difficult to juggle?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just I mean, I was traveling so much, and at the time, I got married to my second wife at the time, and you could see it was bothering her because I was traveling literally so much. I mean, I was going to like three different countries in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was like I was barely in England at the time. Maybe I might be back for like a couple of days or like a week. Um, but to me, it was part of the business.
Yeah.
And then what happened was then I had to hire staff because, I was away so much. I needed people to take over the teaching at the academy. So I do staff training and so forth.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, especially, isn't it? Is when you've got a new business, you're traveling everywhere. With staff, was that a difficult thing to get someone in there to sort of teach as you wanted to teach and run the place as you
Oh,
wanted to run?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because like, especially I had the first batch of staff and I trained them up and everything, but they had different ideas themselves. So
yeah,
basically I had almost a walkout. So I
yeah,
basically lost all my staff and
yeah,
so I had to rebuild. And after I rebuild, like I never lost any more staff. Um,
yeah. It's difficult, isn't it?
and
While the cat's away, the mice will play, isn't it? Is I've heard of that a lot, sort of over decades of hairdressing. It's that thing. If you're away a lot, you've got to have a really concrete, decent, certainly management structure in there. Otherwise, it can go, like you say, it can go wrong very quickly there.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why like I had then hired my best friend, a guy called Ian, who used to be the pub manager where I used to go drink at, and then we stayed as friends. And when I got sober, and so he wanted something, he wanted to get out of the pub trade, and so he became a manager at my academy. And so yeah, I think he kept things in check and everything. So he's a great guy.
No, that's what you need sometimes, isn't it? It's just someone to be there, your eyes and ears when you're not there. So with the academy then, so I know you've now moved to Edinburgh, haven't you? Um,
Yeah,
from Nottingham. So what are you up to up there? Have you got a new academy up there, or what are you up to?
yeah. Well, what happened was, so I had met a girl, my partner now, and she was living in Edinburgh. She's not Scottish or anything. She just moved here. She's Italian, English, and so I moved up here to be closer to her. And then what happened was I had opened up a small training studio, and then I had the academy down in Nottingham and a hair salon and a barber shop in Leicester. And I was going back and forth for a little bit.
Yeah,
And then it was just getting too much for me. So basically what happened was, so I was like, okay, well, um, I had gotten a business partner up here in Edinburgh, and we had opened up a very big location. It was like almost like 3,000, like I think it was like 3,000 square feet. It was like humongous, and it was going to be a barber shop, a hair salon, and an academy there. And within 2 months after we opened, like we had he basically scammed me and had a massive falling out, and I basically lost everything. I had, I invested so much money. I lost all my money. I had like 30 grand worth of equipment in there. I lost. I'm fine. Like funny enough, I literally went to like because it's being put into liquidation because he screwed everything up. So luckily, like I was actually getting some of my stuff back in storage. So I was there yesterday with a
yeah,
man in a van unloading stuff, like and then having to find another storage unit to put my my stuff, move it there, and then I was there this morning, so that's why it's like been a bit chaotic. So yeah, so I had to learn a very very hard life lesson. I mean, even 5 years ago, um, I actually had a staff member commit fraud in my company. I mean, I basically lost about 300 grand, and
Yeah.
because she had like totally scammed me, and uh like I had started like a new MVQ program, which is kind of like cosmetology school here in England, and she had faked everything, and she was supposed to be my head of education for MVQ, and she faked everything, and it was a long story, but so then she actually I had to get the police involved, action
Oh yeah.
fraud, and what happened? So basically, there was 13 criminal charges brought up against her,
Yeah.
and so the next court date is her sentencing hearing.
Yeah.
So she's getting 3 to 5 years, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Um,
serious amounts of money, isn't it? You know, it's not taking 10 quid out the till to get a lunch, is it? You know,
no, no.
yeah, you know, it's serious money
So
there.
I've had some very hard times in the last 5 years, 5 6 years, in business. I just call them learning lessons or life lessons.
Yeah.
But it sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. Like it was a bit definitely hard, especially the last one,
Yeah.
um, because of like it really affected my personal relationship with my partner, my girlfriend now. Um, so yeah, so it's been tough. But in this last year, my career has changed. I mean, I've already, you know, I'm building up money in the account. I'm working from home or I travel for education. I had to really change my whole business mindset,
Yeah.
and I started my online training programs. Yeah, so it's I really had to change my way of working in a way.
Yeah. No,
So yeah, but
absolutely. I mean, it's a lesson to have there, isn't it? It's sometimes it's I've personally have always been adverse to partnerships in business, you know, except for maybe the
yeah.
wife or you know the parents or something of that ilk. But it is it's a very very difficult thing to get right, isn't it? You know, and it's such a shame that there are so many people out there who just can't be trusted, you know, with such things.
Oh yeah.
It's a story I hear time and time and time again in hairdressing and other businesses and other areas that I'm involved in. It's you know someone's done this, someone's tried to pull someone's trousers down, and it's you know it's just not something that should be done. But you know I'm glad that it's all going well. So you mentioned there you've just opened up again your online education there, Sid. Do you want to go into that a little bit more? Let people know what's going on, what you're offering.
Yeah, so what I offer, especially with my recent one, which was it's pre-recorded, so it's split into like six to like almost seven modules where it's for uh, barbers or hairdressers or students with a minimum of at least a 1 year experience, because so we're really taking you through the journey of working with different lengths and also both men and women's cutting, and also dealing with different type of textures, so such as African Caribbean and curly hair, the type 3, type 4 textures of hair, and it really is like, so we got about 12 and a half hours, almost 13 hours of pre-recorded video footage, professionally made. um, so you can watch it, on a tablet, a computer, a phone. You can watch it when you want, where you want, and it's like, so there's like, it's either a one-off payment, because once you purchase it, it's yours to keep.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a membership or anything. Or you could do either 6 to 8 payment plans, pay monthly.
Yep.
Uh, and once you pay it off, it's all yours. So that was just launched and everything. So that was really good. Um, and so we're already thinking about for our advanced course. So we've already started, taking bookings for that. So you could prepay for that, which is great, and you get a cheaper discount. Um, so yeah, so it's pretty much, and the original one we did, that was with for beginning barbering. So which was that one was still like, still available and everything. So it's great for ones that wanted a little extra knowledge, or even an experienced barber that wants to just refresh his skills, or a beginner barber. So yeah.
Yeah.
um
You got something for
So it's like a
everyone there,
mix.
really. Then.
Yeah, so it's like we have theory, we have mixture of demonstrations on mannequin heads and also live models. So yeah, so it really is, and talking about from health and safety to product knowledge, blow drying, styling, and everything. So
Oh, that's fantastic. And if people want to find out a little bit more about that, Sid, where do they find out some more information?
yeah, so you could go to my Instagram account, which is Sid Sottung Academy. Yeah, so Sid Sottung Academy, and
Perfect.
you go on there and you have all the links and everything.
We'll put that in the show links and whatnot else so people can catch up with you if they need to. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Sid. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm glad everything's turning itself around and going in the right direction again. Have a good afternoon,
Uh,
sir.
you too, sir. All the
Will do.
best. Cheers now.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.